Yes, so yes, Sunday coming,
Sunday is there.
Good afternoon, good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of
I think we
Sunday
need to
Scoops.
we need to raid Win Armand's yard. That painting behind him looks thiefable.
Ready, I
Yeah,
tell you what.
ready. I will kill you. Win Armand, good afternoon, and good afternoon, listeners. Of course, when you say Wayne Armand in dark glasses and then up to no good
It's a
in the Sunday.
celebrity thing. You tell me an interview you've watched with a major celebrity and them don't have on them darkers.
Yeah. But I not hear the way if you saying anything, or maybe you're muted. I'm not sure. Oh yes, we hear
There
you.
you go.
Yes,
There
we
you
hear
go.
you.
No, I said when I have on the shades, it mean business.
The last time I saw you with those
Terminator.
shades, you were at a place a couple of a week ago, God.
Yes, a week ago.
Man,
Yeah.
the man
Firing
was-
shots.
firing
shots,
shots, pure ducking everybody.
Yes, well, it's things that have to be said, Richie and God. I mean, you just can't skirt these issues all the while and big up people, and it's not everything that must get big up for, you know what I mean?
And listen, I am with you. In fact, I think that is a topic that we need to address using this
the dark
media.
side of
Yeah.
reggae music.
Because
Well-
you made some particularly solid arguments, that I noticed that, as I said, people start duck because
Well, it's too sad. I was going through the internet just recently and saw some things come out about Bob because of this movie now is bringing him once again to the forefront. And I'm talking about Bob the villain and how much baby mother and how mistreat Rita. We're all human, right? So to err is human and to forgive is divine. So
We always forgive.
yeah, we have to just learn to forgive. And even with some of the things that I was talking about last week, I mean, we forgive, but the truth is that the history is there. And
you mustn't forget it.
No, you
Forgiving
can't.
is fine, but you should never forget, because if you forget, you're gonna repeat the same errors.
Right.
But you made a point, and before we dive into our primary subject this afternoon, the value that Mali has for Jamaica's music. In fact, I'm on record that no other Jamaican, alive or dead, decades, over 100 years ago, has contributed to Jamaica to the extent that Mali has contributed. And
On the global scale.
To suggest, absolutely. Well, people try to say, we can do it outside of Jamaica. Marcus Garvey is the only national hero in my mind that we have.
right.
And Marcus Garvey's antecedents were established outside of Jamaica to a large extent, right? And so what he did is that he caused the spotlight to be shone on Jamaica, in that immediate period. Mali has done that repeatedly. If we were to quantify the volume, because more than 60% of the tourists who come to Jamaica tell them come to Jamaica because of the music. And so if you were to quantify the value of each tourist who would have come to Jamaica in and around the period, the 1970s, to this day, his value to Jamaica is incalculable.
I agree with you 150. And
right?
why he has not been named national hero yet is beyond me.
It's beyond me. But again,
That's politics.
That's a discussion. In fact, I believe we should have that.
No, we had it already. We had that discussion.
Yes,
already.
but we have to keep the conversation going, because the reason these people want you raise it and then you forget about it.
That's right.
It is only by repetition that it drives the point home. And when people like you, yourself, Wayne, and I'm sure your own colleagues can amplify this thing, that's where we're going. But today, we want to use the opportunity to celebrate another man who has been
sadly posthumous.
Sadly posthumously. Thanks God. But God always have some $50 word, Wait, I'm telling you.
50 US.
$50
Yes,
word.
we can.
50 pound. 50 pound.
Let's call it now.
But seriously, we want to use the time this evening to celebrate Leighton Keith Shervington, better known to everyday Jamaican as
Pluto
Pluto
Shervington.
Shervington.
Man born 13th of August, a Leo like myself, 1950.
I tell you, man, most heads up himself.
Just like how Kingston College always have come up, now to push up the Leo thing. You know?
Unfortunately, Pluto is from the other side of the street.
Well, listen, at North Street, same way, man.
Unfortunately, forgot, not for me.
No, by the way, we turn off the music.
The show must go on, regardless of petty differences.
That's right.
Pluto has regaled Jamaica over the years, and you know, you win. You know, is probably when we looked at Pluto's contribution, you were the best representation of that in terms of you know, somebody who can. I don't. It's not a way I try to eulogize Pluto, but if people want to call it that, now so be it. But you were there with him. You guys, you know, coming out of the same environment, and so I don't think there could be a better person to help us to peel back the pages on Pluto Shervington's career than Wayne Armond. And of course, Wayne with his own antecedents, having been a founding member of the great, say it away, man, in the mayor.
Aaron Lee and the Dragon.
Yes, I understand.
I am honored to have been and still is one of the original members of Chalice. Still honored.
Absolutely. And we don't miss any opportunity to celebrate the people who have given us all of this, you know, this pleasure and entertainment. And so when we're going to help us peel back the onion on Pluto Shervington's career, right?
Well,
your thoughts, Wayne?
I can only do my best and tell you my history with him, you know, from when I first saw Pluto and up to 2 weeks ago when we last spoke.
Wow.
I was about 13 or 14 years old, probably younger. No, I was probably about 14 years old. And my mom was working for the great Denon Geddes, and she was put in charge of an event. And this event was in the form of a dance, and she was auditioning bands to play at this event. And she told me she had to go and listen to this band if I wanted to come with her, because she knew I was interested in music. And I went, and there was this band setting up in a garage, and this was my first remembrance of Pluto. He was the bass player for a band called The Presidents. I can't tell you if I got the gig or not, but I remember seeing this. He was young. He was practically my age, well, plus 2 years my senior, but he was this young fella playing the bass. That is what attracted me to that band at the time. And that was my first knowing Pluto Shervington or seeing Pluto Shervington.
Yeah, he got into the business from, according to the scribes, at a very, very early age. You know, the President is that's one of his earliest setup, yes, earliest music setup and outing.
Right.
And would have gone on within a year or so to get together with, what's the other band? It's Tomorrow's Children. Right.
Okay. No, Tomorrow's Children, when Pluto, he wasn't an original member of Tomorrow's Children.
Right.
They actually started in Mandeville with people like Howard Finlayson and Afif Lazarus and so on. But then they came to Kingston and recruited Pluto, God Query, Cornell Marshall, Steve Batchelor, and Barry Collins. That was the nucleus of the band. And then they added John Jones later on.
Yes. John Jones, Barry Collins, Ken Lazarus.
Not yet. Ken was like
Ken never come in, I think. He came in later.
Right.
Yeah.
But when Tomorrow's Children came in, there was such an inspiration because I had formed my own high school band called Hells Angels. And so we had there were many places for live bands to play in Jamaica. You weren't making no great money, but if you had a passion, you form a band and you go and play. Excuse me. And the bands, the bands of those glory days, or the big bands were like Byron Lee, the Virtues, the Vagabonds, the Vikings. Those were the big bands that with big horn section and would play at these and would hold their own sessions and make money.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tomorrow's Children came along, and for us, the uptown youths, quote unquote uptown youths, they were a revelation because they were hip. It was the late 60s, going into the 70s, the hippie movement in the US.
The war.
War, Vietnam War.
War, right.
Right. So it was a time. My band, of course, we never had much foresight. We never had much vision. We would have never called our band the Hells Angels. But we were just influenced by these motorcycle and leather jackets and things. Wow. The bad boys of the day, you know.
Leather cuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was coming out of North America too.
Right. Everything was influenced out of North America. Tomorrow's Children would dress in paisley barefoot pants and vests, and and they were such a big inspiration to us. I remember whenever they played, it was people like me and Mikey and Jeffrey Chung and the Lewis brothers from Inner Circle and quite a number of us, because they were just starting Inner Circle. We were in Hells Angels. There was the Now Generation. There was the Generation Gap. There was a number of young bands starting up. And Tomorrow's Children was like our mentors and who we look up to, because they were getting the gigs. They were popular.
This would have been what, about 1972, 71, 72?
71, 72.
Right.
Which at the time too was the Black Panthers in their heyday, getting into that black supremacy movement in the United States.
Right, big civil rights time. Civil rights time in the US.
And to just that point you made about Hell's Angel, because you're right, they were a biker gang, biker gang.
Right.
But at the time too, you've never had the kind of negative that became eventually associated with them.
Oh no, we were never associated with them. We never dressed like them.
But you just took the name.
We just took the name. And what is ironic is that we found ourselves in a newspaper in a very negative way, because somebody on Reddit's Road started a club and called it the Evil People Club. So there was the Hells Angels playing in the Evil People Club, and let me tell you, the religious people never cottoned to that very much. Needless to say, the Evil People Club didn't last very long.
I think it would have lasted a couple of weeks.
It was a miracle that Hells Angels lasted, but people didn't associate us with the biker gang from the US.
Right.
So that was a good thing.
Well, what we want to do is just to give people, this is early, as you said, in early 70s, late 60s, early 70s.
Right.
Music is still being influenced largely by what's coming out of North America.
Right.
Pluto Shervington had, I think it would have been with Tomorrow's Children.
Yeah, Rocksteady in full swing.
Right. Rocksteady is, reggae is now trending in too, given the time.
But Rocksteady was a dominant song.
Yeah. He had a song, I don't know if you found this guy, where he read
Bang
Rocksteady.
Bang,
right.
Which was Cher had a pocket at the time. Bang Bang.
Right.
And were signed to Federal Records.
Bang Bang, the Stevie Wonder Bang Bang.
No,
this was Cher. From Sonny and Cher time.
Okay.
Give your song.
Let's give you a little hear.
Well, I must say this before you do that.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's Children actually put out an album But it was in those days. Byron Lee did the same. Everybody did the same. They just put out an album of covers.
Right.
It was only people like Scatterlights and the great rocksteady artists and ska artists who were doing originals. Inner Circle in the early dispensation put out an album of covers. So did Tomorrow's Children. But Hell's Angels, I told them guys I would never go in the recording studio until I had an original piece of material to record. So we never did that. So this song you're talking about on Tomorrow's Children could have been on that album. I don't remember.
All right, let's give a listen.
All right, that was Bang Bang, Shot Her Dead.
Bang Bang, we shot her down.
That is not Pluto Shervington's vocal.
No, it's just that we were just featuring because he was.
This was the first recording he was involved with.
Yeah,
okay, so that's the Tomorrow's Children.
Tomorrow's Children.
Right. Okay. Cool. Yeah,
but he came into his own, shortly thereafter. But as we, we're just kind of peeling back the onion a little bit, so you get a sense of where it was coming from.
Foundation.
Right.
Well, as I say, Tomorrow's Children was very, very a motivational force with us young musicians. Very much so until their unfortunate breakup. And I say it was unfortunate because I remember practically the last gig they did because a lot of the members had left. They were at the heights of their career when they had a great drummer, Roger Bethelme, join, Ken Lazarus joined. They put a horn section with Clive Morris and a Trinidadian trombonist, Jerome Francique. And they were really massive as the circuit. They used to do Canada, USA, all through the Caribbean and come back to Jamaica. And then slowly, one by one, the members left, and they even recruited some of Hell's Angels musicians to finish up contractual agreements that they had.
Mm-hmm.
But the nail in their coffin was they had a dance one night at the Sheraton Hotel. It was, I believe, in the ballroom. And it was a Fab Five and themselves. And let me tell you something, man. Fab Five, literally, and not meaning literally, crucify them. After Tomorrow's Children had played their first set, their second set, and Thomas and Fab Five was to come back, they came through the audience with crosses, walk through the audience with crosses and walk around Tomorrow's Children bandstand. And Pluto, I saw him, I went to him afterwards and him just kind of shake him head and said, boy, George, he used to call me, said, boy, George, time for me to get up this thing, Time for me to get up this thing. And I think they did 2 more shows in Canada that they were contracted to do. And then that was it.
He went solo at that point.
And that was the best thing that ever happened to him.
All right, before we even get down to that point, how did you meet up with him afterwards? Because, based on what you said, you had seen him at this rehearsal.
Yeah, age 14.
And then...
well, of course, the Tomorrow's Children thing. We all used to follow Tomorrow's Children. We all used to follow Tomorrow's Children. So, of course, as soon as I take a break, we guys would be all over them, What card you use for that, Where you buy that guitar, boy? How much you pay for that? What kind of string you use?
Real fun.
Yeah, big fan. Big fan.
It is apparent, too, that after Tomorrow's Children, he went into, according to the scribes, he formed a business. He started a business called Sound Associates Limited. Right? There's a little bit of some sort of gray, if you want to call it that, because I get the impression he was out there recording, even just before that. This is,
well, Sound Associates was a studio.
Right.
A studio. And he would record himself and produce. He produced actually one song that went to the UK top 10, which was a song called a cover of uh, ain't gonna miss that. Midnight Rider was a song.
Midnight Ride.
And this,
He's credited to having written that song.
no,
Not
he didn't write that song. It was
But he produced it.
by Buddy Miles. Buddy Miles was the man who did that song.
okay. Now the guy who did it is Paul Davidson.
Paul Davidson, the singer.
The singer. Yeah.
Right.
But
Paul
he
Davidson.
produced it.
He produced
Apparently,
it.
very little little mention was ever made of his work behind the scenes as a producer. But he had significant success based on the research we've been doing.
And this song was featured on Top of the Tops in England, which is seemingly a very big deal.
No, if you get to Top of the Pops, man, you are there. There's no question about that.
Very few people, but thank God in that era, we had a few people that got to Top of the Pops.
Right.
You know, Ken Booth, Baba Marcia, Susan Cadogan, and Paul Davidson with this song.
Let's give the listeners a sound of what Midnight Rider was all about. 1975 was the year. You know, you as a musician know that a good musician has a signature, and that bass line is a signature Pluto Shervington bass line.
Yes, that's true.
You play the bass on that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, you hear. But there's something about that tune though, because I know this word, but somebody else did it over, right? Because I know another version of that same song.
But it's possible because good songs lend itself to covers.
Yeah,
but the original version I know was Buddy Miles and the Freedom Express.
But as you said, you know, this was a period when we had a couple of Jamaicans who were making it the top of the pops. The natural step 1970s Jamaican music is that it went to the UK. Right. Later on, we started to try to get some stuff here in America, but it was UK was the initial step, and Top of the Pops was the cream, and you get the Top of the Pops recognition galore. So, you know, Pluto had basically, as a producer, would have established himself clearly well established.
But
yes.
Sorry, I must tell you this, that during that period of time in the 70s with the studio, he wasn't just doing producing in the studio. He was doing a lot of jingles.
For advertisers.
Yes, himself, Peter Ashburn, and Grub Cooper were probably the three top jingle producers for advertisers in Jamaica. And not only that, Pluto had a one-man band. And in those days, the one-man band wasn't like now, where you have a track and you just sing over it or play a guitar.
You play everything.
Like I do. Pluto have to play bass with him, foot pedal, guitar, maybe have a little drum machine playing a beat. And Pluto told me, he played at my first marriage was in 1974. And Pluto played at my wedding. And Pluto told me that year, I got married in January of 1974. Pluto said in 1973, he made $1 million. Now, when you make $1 million Jamaica, as a musician in 1973, and Pluto didn't have to tell me that. It was not boast. It was not boast. It was not brag. It was just a legit boy, you know, having given up to Mars children and gone on to his own thing. It proved very successful for him.
I remember Pluto coming through as a youth. You know, in the early 70s, we were in a school, and him kind of taking him time coming through. Ernest Smith would have been a big part of the thing. Yeah, we're up on a break, so let's take the break and we come right back and we pick up from there.
Sure.
Right.
No
And we're back.
Yes, Wayne, we were talking about the 1970s. He made, as I said, he was holding his own after Tomorrow's Children.
Right.
More than just being able to pay his bills. He was, as you said, he was holding his own.
Oh yeah, he was driving a BMW.
And I can put things into perspective, because in Manchester in 1976, you talk about $1 million in 74, 73, 74. 1976, they had a road expansion program in my little district of Coleville, Manchester. And for the land and the building that was there, the government gave my grandparents $6,500 Jamaica. And the house was built, contractors paid, everything. And after that, there was $10 left in the bank account.
That's putting it in perspective.
$1 million. Right. That sounds like Jamaica's GDP.
Gonna buy a liquor. Have to go buy a liquor for that kind of state.
So, guys, you come from the coldest place in Jamaica.
One of.
But I had a show up there one night, man. I thought I was in New York in the dead of winter.
I go and dance up the one night with Arrow's hi-fi. And when the breeze blow through me in the body.
I tell you.
The box have a little cutout piece. In the sum, you end up, get all the sound.
Oh, I know the cutout piece in the basement.
Yeah, man. But to come back to the thing,
yeah,
the 1970s, I would say that Pluto was doing pretty well. It was around the time I was making the point that Ernie Smith had basically come through the thing.
Right.
Ernie had released quite a
barrage
of hit song.
Gun, man, and all these.
The wickedest tune to me when them time come in their school. Dopey are a gun, man. Must be a dopey are a gun. And then Pluto, taking a cue off of that, decides, boy, I am going to thing. And come with.
What was significant about those Ernie Smith songs, though, is one of the first known recording of using patois.
Patois, yes, that's there. In fact, the general feeling was that nobody was going to listen to or buy them kind of music. Man, I sing patois, right? It just go for sure how we hold down ourselves, because Ernie take the patois, and then Pluto decides, well, what fall back at you.
It can work for me, it can work for me too.
And Pluto hit, right?
Yes.
In Ram Goat Liver. In fact, every time I pull up something about Pluto Shervington, there's a narrative about Ram Goat Liver that before them even talk about the artist.
Right.
And that song, the rest is just history.
Yes.
Eh? But you were gonna comment on.
No, well, I was gonna say that shortly after his success as a one-man band and all that, Pluto hooked up with Federal Studios, and this is where his recording career really took off big time.
Federal became Tough Gun.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, he bought the premises, so it never really become Tough Gun.
Yeah.
And ironically, the same studio where Bob Marley was chased from.
Yeah, man, run him from out of it.
That's what they call revenge.
Yeah, so where are the people in place? You can't play music. Don't hear Rasta boy. Go about your business. Bob and Rita them buy the place years later.
Well, not Bob. It was bought after his death.
But
the
Marleys
Foundation.
Yeah, bought the place.
Because for the same reason, because their father and husband was run out of the place. So, and they were looking to make Hope Road a studio a museum rather than a studio.
Yeah. But come back to Pluto. So he basically
Federal Records.
Went to Federal and did this recording.
Found a home. I tell you. He found a home.
But he had prior, remember, through Tomorrow's Children, they were signed to Federal, so he had prior connections there.
Yes.
Was it Ken Corey?
Ken Corey, yes.
Hi there. If you enjoyed that clip, go on over to our website at yawdmedia.com, where you can watch the entire broadcast at your leisure. And while you're there, why don't you check out our other reggae music features? And before you leave, pick up some of our Jamaican reggae merchandise, and hey, don't forget to tell your friends.